So,
Oh, is it that one where you do the triangle and then like the...
all right, so we've seen a triangle here before, all right. Have you seen arrows in this study before?
Yeah.
Arrows?
No.
No.
Wait,
Yeah.
maybe not. I don't know.
All right. So, if this is what ecology is, you started on your tabletop at the very basic level of ecology. You started looking with the lowest level of discipline that we can study, the individual. So if we're going in order, we would say, seriously? I do well with symbols. Stop, record, play, plus. So the first level of ecology that we study is the individual. And after we look at the individual, we then look at what we already said is a population. From there, we look at communities. After community, then we look at ecosystems. And from ecosystems, we get even bigger. We move on to biosphere. Now, when I asked you guys to define ecology for me, you told me, well, it's the study of ecosystems. Well, doesn't that kind of leave out all of these? So we don't study just this one little part. When we study ecology, we study all of these, starting at the bottom and working our way up. So we start at individual, and we work our way up from there. An individual is anything that's alive. So, if you thought the first activity was difficult enough for the first day back from break, take a moment with your partner to discuss, how do you know the things in those pictures are alive? What are they doing, or what do they do, or can they do? How do you know they're living? And when I pull that yeast culture out of my refrigerator, it lives in a mason jar in the fridge. But when I take a cup out of it and scoop it out, put it on the fridge or on the counter in a bowl, I have to make sure that I choose a bowl much larger than the 1 cup volume that I've pulled out. Because then I'm going to give it a half a cup of flour. So the total volume was 1 cup of starter with my half a cup of flour. But I have to make sure it's in at least a 4 or 5 cup bowl. Why? It grows. It will run all over the counter. It grows. So any living thing must
Grow.
grow.
Wait. Is there an example where something doesn't grow?
No.
No, everything is really.
Everything has to grow. Everything has to develop.
Wait, what about bacteria? So
They grow.
They get big.
So anything has to grow, develop, reproduce. That's what's happening in the bowl, right? They're reproducing, they're dividing. Interestingly enough, I said I kept it in a mason jar in my refrigerator. It's when I take it out of the refrigerator that it grows. What's the change? Temperature. It goes dormant in the fridge. It wakes up outside. So what is it doing?
It's evolving.
Evolving? Is it simply carrying out its life cycles based on the environment around it? Living things respond to their environment. Responds to its environment. I don't necessarily want us to use the word adapt right now. Because response to the environment, my yeast culture didn't technically adapt in what we would call the evolutionary sense. It's still the same yeast culture from southern Italy that it was when I had it shipped to my house.
Wait, you shipped it in?
Yes. I wanted the same yeast they use in Italian pizza to make real good Neapolitan pizza. So I had
pizza one day.
the right yeast.
How long did it take them growing?
It's a couple weeks. And then you have to you become kind of a little bit of a yeast rancher. You have to grow it, encourage its growth, feed it every other day, keep it at a very specific temperature.
Wait, did you say to beat it every day?
Feed.
Oh, okay.
The beautiful thing about yeast not having a central nervous system, they don't care if I beat them.
Okay.
You do when you put them into the stand mixer and you turn the dough hook on. Those poor yeast take a beating. They don't care. They don't have a central nervous system, so life is
Does it
fine.
feel weird that you're eating something alive?
Everything that we
Like,
eat
yeah.
was alive
Well,
at one
like,
point.
When you eat
Yeah,
it,
but you're
necessarily
basically
it's not
cooking
alive.
it.
It's not alive. You stick it in the oven and it dies when it reaches
What if I eat a
550. So
Why would you eat a rock?
that is not alive. And do you know what would happen if you ate a rock?
Wait.
Gastrointestinal distress, and then you would have to pass a rock.
That technically grow
That big of a rock.
because it like layers.
Oh my god.
But not. It gets larger, but it doesn't grow. So it increases in size, but that's not the same as growth.
Because like
So
layers add on.
Wait, what?
it responds to the environment. It reproduces. It grows. It develops. It requires energy. There's something else about the yeast culture that I know it's ready to be used to make bread or to make pizza. There's something very specific about it that you know it's very, very active. When it's sitting on the counter and it's just been pulled from the refrigerator, there are no bubbles. It just looks like a puddle of dough. After it sits there for about 6 hours, then it starts to bubble a little bit. Warmer temperatures, bubbles faster. What are the bubbles?
Can we say it again?
What are the bubbles?
Carbon
What do the
dioxide.
bubbles look like?
Carbon dioxide. What's the yeast doing?
Breathing?
Let's use a more scientific term than breathing.
Inhale, exhale.
Wait, I remember this word. Hang on, I remember this. Wait, no, I
He's got it.
No, it doesn't.
don't. Wait, no.
Attaboy.
Oh.
Believe.
Respiration.
Wait,
Oh.
that's the word. That's the word.
It's respiring. It's taking in oxygen. It's producing glucose
Wait, so
And breathe out.
and breathing out carbon dioxide. So it's taking energy from something around it, from the flour that I've put in the bowl, and it's expelling carbon dioxide gas. Respiration. Living things respire.
So how does like a mushroom?
How does a mushroom respire? Well, mushrooms are heterotrophs. So their mitochondria, they're going to do the exact same thing. They're going to take in some kind of energy from the environment, convert it inside their cells into carbon dioxide and ATP.
But how would it like?
Releases it through its cells.
Oh.
It just doesn't breathe properly, nor do yeast really. They don't have like lungs and that. When we think respiration, we always think lungs because that's the one we identify with, right? We're like, we have those, we understand them. Anything that has cells respires. Now notice I said anything that has cells. Well, what has cells? Everything
living.
living. Should probably add that to our list.
Oh.
In other words, I have to be careful with my very fat hand as it drags across the screen because clearly I stop it and erase things. But I filled up everything from Show Me. Like I've used all of my potential saved recording space, so now I have to switch to one that I haven't used at all. What is, because this is that one is a super important one on this slide. requires energy. Because remember we said ecology was a study of bioenergetics? What is energy? What is energy?
You have to use it to do all of that.
You're absolutely correct. You use it. Is it reusable?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
No.
In the ecological sense, it is not reusable. So you use it up to do all that other stuff. What does it mean to do something? Energy is the ability to do work. Energy is, in fact, the ability to do work. And there are two kinds of energy. There's chemical energy, and there's free energy. Chemical energy and free energy. Chemical energy is the energy that's stored in organic molecules, in space organic molecules. The energy stored in space organic molecules. So remember all those biomolecules that we covered? We store energy there, and we call that chemical energy. That's why we had to do those before we could talk about ecology. So you knew where all of these things were storing that chemical energy.
Stored in
Organic molecules. It's the energy stored in space organic molecules. Space is like a space, not like outer space. You with me? Free energy. Free energy is the energy that's currently available to do work. It's the energy that is currently available to do work. It's not stored anywhere. It's usable at this very moment. This is the stuff that organisms need in order to do a few things. Grow. You kind of need energy to grow, right? Sort of important. So you're going to use it for growth, movement. They need it for growth, movement, and transport. They need it for growth, movement, and transport.
Do you mean like transport, like to move from here to here?
I mean transport like getting something into and out of a cell.
Oh.
So within, like the physiology part of it, within the organism, inside, which requires energy. Now you already know, at the individual level, the two methods of acquiring energy. I know you know them. There are only two methods of acquiring energy. Take a look at the organisms on your tabletop and tell me, based on looking at them, what the two